What's up guys, and welcome to this video. This video is a full review of the TP-Link Archer C9 wireless router. Now this wireless router has a maximum theoretical speed of 1900 megabits per second. This is achieved with its dual band technology, so you can have 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz networks running simultaneously. The router supports B, G, N and AC networks, so this is more or less your high-end router for high-end performance in maybe quite a large home, or a home with a lot of users, or of course a home with very thick walls. So is this router any good, and should you buy it? So the first thing you might wonder is, why is there a box of the product behind me but not actually the product itself? Well, this is because the router is actually the main router in the home, and I have been using this for the past couple of weeks and have had the chance to fully test it. Now, this router costs about £100. It's a little bit over that at the moment in the UK, and of course it will be your regional equivalent in whatever region you are. It comes in two editions, the ADSL and the standard cable edition. This is running the cable edition, and the actual internet speed that I normally get is about 77-80 megabits per second. So of course that is the benchmark that our wireless and our wired networks should be achieving. A wired network achieved a maximum speed of about 77, so more or less what we would expect. We'll talk about wireless performance a little bit in a minute, but what about the router itself? Well, it looks pretty good. It's quite plasticky, but it is a white gloss finish. We've got some nice icons on the front that light up, so if you've got a USB device plugged into one of the ports, then that will come on. Likewise, we've got an internet indicator light and then a load of different indicator lights indicating different things. Around the back we have 4 gigabit Ethernet ports. We have one Ethernet in, of course. We have a WPS/reset button. We've got 2 USB ports, one on the side which is a USB 3. So this is in theory going to be the high performance port for using something like a hard drive, so we can essentially use it as almost like a NAS. And then it's quite nice to have the ability to have 2 things plugged in at the same time, because with that USB 2 we can plug something like a printer in and share it on our network. So this is going to be quite a nifty little router. Getting this thing set up and working is incredibly easy, and is actually one of the best bits of setup software I've used for a wireless router. You can choose to do it with the mobile app, or you can choose to do it the old-fashioned way with an Ethernet cable directly connected to your router, or of course over the wireless connection using the default settings. You can set it up the basic way for novice users, which essentially is like a step-by-step guide to help you set up your network to the best of its ability, or of course you can go into a whole absolute mass of advanced settings and change the advanced settings, but again, more on that later. The point is, it's all where you'd expect it to be. You don't really have to think about using this bit of software. It's very easy to do what you need to do. You can also set up a guest network if you need to, as well as access the printer and USB sharing settings. And if you want to look at a topology map of everything you've got connected to your internet, or your router I should say, and then that is very easy to do so as well. And if you are using the mobile app, it's literally a case of finding a device and clicking block for immediately blocking access to any device on the network. Hopefully it's something you shouldn't have to do, but if you do need to do it, it is very easy to see what you've got connected to your network. So hats off to TP-Link there. So then setting this thing up is incredibly simple, but we only need to do that once. What about the thing we're going to use all the time, the actual performance of the router? Well, let me start by saying it is one of the best routers I've ever used when it comes to performance at long range. Regardless of what room I'm in, it's always been a nice solid connection, and that includes the 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz connections. I'm not finding that I'm ever going outside of the range, and especially if you have a device that can intelligently switch between networks, so the 2.4 and 5 GHz bands, then you're going to have a breeze of performance when it comes to the actual range of the router. But what about the actual bandwidth of that connection? What about the actual speeds of that connection? Well, again, it's been pretty good. Now, I live in an area that is very saturated in 2.4 GHz wireless networks. However, I am currently the only device on the 5 GHz band. So 5 GHz, I just left the channel on automatic, went in pretty much every single room in the house to get some readings, and it's always within 60% of the maximum internet speeds that I should be getting. So as I said earlier, the maximum internet speed I would be getting would normally be about 77, 78 megabits per second, And in the furthest room in the house, which is actually a conservatory, I was getting about 48 megabits per second, which is very good, and I don't think anyone would really need much better performance or should expect much better performance at that range without using a secondary router or extender. So that's pretty good. Obviously it depends on the device you're using. I was using a Galaxy Note 4 for all these Wi-Fi tests, and the computer behind me for the wired test. So of course it will vary depending on the device you're using, but essentially by using the same device for all the tests, we should be able to properly compare the relative speeds. Now moving closer to the router, and the performance gets even better. In pretty much any of the rooms that I'm actually using my phone in, so our lounge, our dining room, our kitchen, and the bedroom that I'm in now, I'm always getting within 80% of the theoretical internet speeds, which is brilliant, and this is on the 5 GHz band. The only real problem starts to happen when you move to the 2.4 GHz band. Now the range is good, there's not a problem there, but I did leave the channel on automatic, and then using a nifty app on my phone, I discovered that it had picked a channel with quite a lot of other devices on it, and there was actually only one channel available, channel 13, which didn't have any devices on it already. So I'm slightly disappointed that the router didn't find this channel was free and actually start using it. But if you sort of know what you're doing, then obviously this is something you can work around anyway. And once I had changed it from channel 1, I believe it was on, to channel 13, performance did get a lot better, and it more or less doubled the speed I was getting at the maximum distance away from the router. Moving closer to the router, and I was still a little bit disappointed with performance. Again, this could be due to the fact that this is quite a saturated area, but the 5 GHz performance of this router is absolutely outstanding. The 2.4 GHz, in my opinion, does leave a little bit to be desired. Now, like I say, your results may vary, but I can't help but almost want a little bit more performance out of the 2.4 GHz network. But like I say, your results may vary. So then, that was the wireless performance, but what about the actual USB performance? Well, to be honest, I can't help but be a little bit disappointed here. Now, I used an external USB 3 hard drive and plugged it into the USB 3 port. Now, I like the fact that there are two ports, one for your printer and one for a drive like this, because it gets rid of the problem of having to pick between one device, which is something I have to do at my other home. Now, the USB performance is fine if you want to read stuff for, say, like a media server. If you want to watch videos, you want to listen to music, look at pictures, it's absolutely fine for doing that. The problem is, if you want to start using it as a proper NAS drive, then simply it's just not quick enough. Now, the read and write speeds for some reason over a network are capped at 11.1, I believe it was, megabytes per second. And this just simply isn't really good enough if you actually want to use it as a proper drive. If you want to just use this as I say, as a music server or something like that, then it's going to be absolutely fine because you're not updating your catalog very often. However, if you want to use this as a drive shared between different computers and all using it at the same time, unfortunately you can forget about that because it's simply not quick enough. I'm not sure why it is, and it kind of does beg the question, why put a USB 3 port on there if you're not going to realise the potential of USB 3. It's not a big deal, but for some people that want to, say, get a decent USB 3 performance out their router, then this simply probably isn't the right router for you. But that is pretty much the biggest flaw with this router, so all in all, not too bad. And with that, it is conclusion time. This is a very good 5 GHz router, and in fact is one of the best I have ever used. Speeds are blazing fast no matter where you are in the house, and the range is very good as well. If you want extended range, or if you need the compatibility, of course, you can run this in dual band mode and use that 2.4 GHz band as well. Performance is never going to be as good, but the performance wasn't necessarily as good as I would have liked from a router this expensive. That said, the advantage of having a very quick 5 GHz, in my opinion, does outweigh this. The only other thing to mention really is that the fact that the USB isn't necessarily as good as it could be, and for some reason is capped at a speed of 11.1 megabytes per second, or something very close to that. And with that is all there is to say, other than the fact that this router does win the recommended award. It's not going to be the best router you can get out there, and there's definitely room to improve, but it's definitely a solid router, and I would recommend it to anyone that definitely wants very quick 5 GHz AC speeds. So thank you so much for watching this video. What did you think? Is this a product you would like to get? Is this a product you're interested in? What did you think of the video? If you like this video, then give it a like, and if you didn't like this video, then obviously give it a dislike. For more videos like this, then don't forget to subscribe to PC Centric for more videos like this, including some TP-Link range extenders, some TP-Link power line connections coming very soon, probably in the next couple of weeks. So with that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.